What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Smack. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you enjoy this video. If so, please don't forget to leave some love, share your thoughts in the comments below. And now, enjoy the show.
Hi, my name is Ellen. I lead the public policy team at Airbnb, and this is my episode on Smack.
Hi and welcome to Smack. My name is Philip Ibrahim and today I'm on the Berlin Travel Festival and have the honor to speak to Dr. Ellen Madeker from Airbnb. She's the head of public policy and we talked about how regulations help to build sustainable tourism, where we're gonna meet her in the summer break, and how being a doctor of sociology helps her in her daily life. Enjoy the show. Ellen, what a nice moment for us to meet here on the Berlin Travel Festival, because we're live sitting here on our couch in our social space and we're actually looking at a very nice installation of Julia Niemke with wonderful pictures of the essence of travel, which is quite unique. It's my first time doing it live and I'm super excited to do it with you. Welcome on Smack. Great to have you.
Thank you, Philip. Thank you for having me. It's my first time live as well, and I really enjoy being here at the Berlin Travel Festival.
We actually said that if we're going to have people visiting and viewing us like we do now, if there are questions, we're going to ask them probably later and see if there's more to come for us that you or we can answer. But hey, to start the show right, as the head of public policy for Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and the Russian Federation. Is that correct, what I say? Or how do you say that?
Almost.
Yeah?
So it's DACH, yes.
Okay.
It's Central and Eastern Europe. It includes Ukraine.
Okay.
But we suspended all our business activities in Russia as we comply with the sanctions. So it's not Russia anymore.
But you said Ukraine, so is there still business going?
To a certain very limited extent.
Wow,
as you can imagine.
Of course, but that's nice. That's interesting to see. So you keep on supporting them as well, because it's a business way of doing what they do. But hey, before we start a bit about your business, Ellen, can you enlighten me on your career path? How did you end up? I don't want to say end up because you're still so young. It's not the end. It's probably the beginning. How did you came to Airbnb, and how did you start your career in the hospitality in the broadest sense, so to say?
Yeah, happy to. First of all, I love traveling. So
that's a very, very good point.
This won't come as a surprise to you, but this is also why I'm so happy in the hospitality / travel / tourism industry. I used to work for the German Travel Association, DRV, for a couple of years, where I served last as head of strategy. And that is where I covered a lot of the future topics of the travel industry, right? So sustainability first and foremost, but also digitization. And from there, 2.5 years ago, still in the midst of the pandemic.
I was about to ask, that's a very, very brave moment to change the job, right?
I think it was quite a bold move indeed. So I jumped to Airbnb.
Did they ask you, or did you say, I saw a position open, that's me, and then you replied? Or?
They reached out to me. I think it's the magic of LinkedIn. And
when it works, huh? There's a lot of requests that are quite strange to me.
Yes, but sometimes, you just feel it's a match, and then you have a couple of meetings and conversations, and yes, it worked out. It was, it went very well. And indeed, there were people at the time who said, are you crazy? Why don't you look for a job outside the travel industry? But I had full trust in the whole tourism sector. I knew it would recover. And I had trust in Airbnb as a brand. Airbnb had a difficult time. So, the crisis really hit the whole sector, Airbnb included, obviously. But due to, the innovative founders and due to them adapting real quickly to the new reality, I think Airbnb recovered.
Did you feel it quite in the beginning that when the recovery came, that Airbnb was as well, I said, quicker related to travel numbers? Because, it's a difference than living in a private home or a private house than living in a hotel with 900 people in the beginning of the recovery. But still things were unclear then.
I think there are a couple of aspects that made the platform recover quicklier, simply because for a very long time, people could not travel or could only travel in a very limited way. But many people never really stopped traveling. It was just the way how they traveled was different.
Gotcha.
So one thing is that people did not go on long journeys, for example, to cross the Atlantic as they used to do, but they discovered their surroundings, their neighborhood, rural areas, and that's also where, you know, the offer on Airbnb came in.
Clear. Yeah. And now it was we don't say numbers because you're so young. I don't want to jinx how long you have been at DFV. But have you had the feeling that leading a strategic approach of the general tourism was quite a good fundament of what you do today at Airbnb? Because I really think that you helped them grow in a probably more adult way, or an adult, more cooperative way towards all the destinations you cater to.
It's surely helpful to know the travel industry and how it works and have a good network. The travel industry in Germany is, you know, when it comes to the different associations and the different, you know, ways they raise their voice, is not really easy to understand, right, for outsiders, right? So it really helps to have this inside view. Plus, I really enjoy politics.
That's a sentence with a full stop. I really enjoy politics. Let me tap on that. I mean, I think in today's world, is that something that costs you more energy than before? I feel like politics has become so intense. Whatever you say, whatever you do, or is that always the same and just probably the way we look at it has changed a bit?
I think it really depends on the angle. I think politics is a really exciting thing to engage in. You know, how laws are shaped, how regulation balances out interests, all this, you know, on a European level, national level, regional level. I think this is really exciting. So I feel that I really have the job that combines two fun things for me. One is traveling, and the other thing is politics.
I think that's so remarkable because you're smiling and you can really feel that enjoyment of that. I think that's quite rare. Hey, by the way, what did you do before you went to the DFV in that extent?
That has to do with politics.
Nice.
I spent a bit more than 6 years in Brussels,
Oh, wow.
so in the EU bubble. And that helps me today to understand how EU regulation shapes national regulation. And particularly in these times, it's really helpful because, not sure if you've seen it, but there has been for quite a while an EU regulation of short-term rentals in the making for 2 years. Mm-hmm. And as Airbnb, we have always welcomed this. And now you might say, how come? You know, first of all, how come you welcome EU regulation, which is such a complicated thing? And how come companies welcome regulation? What do we actually do?
So we really can see that your two passions have been the pathway of your career, because you worked in politics and in travel in that extent, and probably now aiming to combine these two things, because you really need to help probably an American-based company understanding how Europe is shaping and how Europe is changing as well. It's a quite interesting take. And I have to say, I did prepare. So for the audience, knowing that I'm always a bit unprepared, I was a bit scared of you. So I had to dig in a bit, because you're an expert in what you do, and I'm not. And I don't want to seem too unprepared.
Is that so? Now I'm looking forward to your other tough questions.
No, it's not tough. It's not tough. No, I read in your profile a sentence that I really like, and it says the future is female, which is probably one thing that we as well on SMAC have been covered quite extensively. So diversity, equity, and inclusion might be something that is a topic. Now linking it to politics, which is still unfortunately a very male-driven game, I have the feeling sometimes, at least in those extents where people are in front of a camera. Have you had the feeling that the future is female is something that is really embedded in politics as well?
That's indeed a tough question.
Yes.
I mean,
preparation paid off.
I think on the, government side, of course, there is still potential, right? Female representation matters. And when it comes to parliaments, no matter on which level, we're not there where we should be. I mean, there are old patterns. We need new approaches.
But
it's a complex
is
thing.
Airbnb female driven? Do you feel that this is more already embedded in a more younger company?
So definitely at Airbnb Germany, yes.
Nice.
So we have a very strong female leadership. You will have come across Katrin Anselm, who is a very strong female leader. I very much enjoy working with her. I have a very much female team as well myself. And it's a different culture than, let's say, 20, 30 years ago, right? The American startup culture and the whole tech environment also very much allows us to bring our best self to work, right? And to really shape an open culture, very much open to feedback. And I feel that it's a very different leadership style to what we see in, also in other, maybe more traditional companies, and I really enjoy that.
I love to hear that, because I think, and that's why I came with the ankle, the travel industry itself is as well an industry that really needs a bit more female passion, female leadership in very much extent. And you have been there 6 years in the association world, and I see it as well on that side. I sometimes feel like we could have more of them, and empower them more is probably one thing of our audience. We know it from the past that we really need you as well as somebody changing the way. And that's why this sentence was so in my head when I read it. I really love that.
Thank you, and I couldn't agree more, I must say. So, and this is one of the things I do at work with younger colleagues. I mentor younger colleagues. I coach younger colleagues. It's one of the things I think that comes with being a female leader. Is really the responsibility and the commitment to empower and to support others on their way.
And in that role in the travel industry let's say the travel world, is there the advice that helped you comply with those probably not so nice situations? What would you give a younger version of yourself along the way to make it a bit easier, to make this statement really something more achievable?
I think if I met my younger self now, I would tell the younger Ellen, be bold, be courageous.
Yeah.
It's normal. Maybe in the beginning, things might seem a bit intimidating. And I remember my younger self was quite shy. And I would, tell myself, don't worry. It's going to be fine. Be yourself. Be bold. Make your voice heard.
That helps me a lot, because there's a lot of things that I say to the younger colleagues. I have to say, not only to the females, but usually it's the females who need to hear it a bit more, to give them a bit more the place and space to grow in this role. So I'm super happy to hear that. Hey, Ellen, and I saw, and I have not telling that, but is there a doctor title somewhere that we're not mentioning here?
Yeah.
See, the younger shy Ellen should have said, hey, I'm Dr. Ellen Madeker. Hey, what is this doctor title for?
I think it's a bit less relevant, right?
Nah, come on. If I would be a doctor, it would be out
tech,
there.
we are all on a first name basis, right?
Dr. Ellen, so you would have a show in American TV.
I'd love to have one. That would be fun. Yeah, I studied, it's in sociology, actually.
You need
social science.
You need it
Very
in this
helpful.
industry, in both ends of what
Very
you do.
helpful. Yeah.
Hey, I think I was surprised, because I always only read Ellen Madeker, and then I checked the profile and I saw there's a doctor title. So I think it's quite something interesting, and especially in sociology, because it's about people and human beings, and that's our industry, right?
Agree. It teaches you a lot about science and how it works, how it's structured. It also tells you about institutions, political institutions. It's also where public policy comes in. So yeah, lots of stuff to build on, and definitely always useful to have, an academic background, of course.
Do you remember why travel was your passion, or what enlightened that fire, or how did you come across into the travel world?
Difficult question. What really, pushed me into that world? I think I've always enjoyed traveling is a privilege, right?
100%
We
agree.
need to acknowledge this. So I was very lucky to grow up in a family where my parents took us to Italy and to Greece when we were younger. And I think that sort of sparked the flame real early. And then I enjoyed studying languages at university, did my semesters abroad. And then slowly I got to discover ever more of the world, and I keep enjoying it.
I love to hear that, because I have an 8-year-old son, and I always say I think the main privilege of being a father is to create those memories, and those memories that are really a privilege to show the world, to see what's out there, to open the eye to the next generation as well, to keep on pushing, keep on being better. I really think that's amazing in what we do.
I agree with you. Traveling broadens your horizon,
Yeah.
right? Particularly true for me, traveling on Airbnb. Be a guest on Airbnb, because you get to meet hosts from all over the world who open their homes literally to welcome you, to host you, to show you around. And I very often made the experience that on Airbnb you come as a guest, but then you leave as a friend.
Strong sentence here. I have to confess, I use Airbnb as well, and we had a brief discussion
Why
earlier.
do you need to confess that?
No, I mean, I'm not using everything in the travel industry.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. And sometimes I speak to things that do not cross my mind. And I work in as you all know, I'm a hotelier. So usually a hotel is probably the easier choice for me. Working 18 years for Accor, I usually have in every city a friend or somebody where to stay. But travel behaviors change. In the moment where I travel with my kid, very often the independency of a home with a fridge and a TV make life much more easier. And then you can ask somebody, and you need to, don't need to run down in a 800 bedroom apartment or a hotel. So I think that's what I mean. Different travel moments require different travel shapes. And that's why I said I travel with Airbnb quite a while, and a lot already.
I agree. It's the beauty of diversity in the travel industry, right?
There you go. There is a moment for an Ibis, and there is a moment for Airbnb, and vice versa.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there is a moment to travel on your own. There is a moment to travel with your partners. There's a moment to bring your dog.
And there's a moment where probably no hotel is around, and as well, that's today's world.
Particularly in rural areas.
Yeah,
that is a travel trend that we've seen in the past 2 years,
Nice.
right? After the pandemic, when people went to discover their surroundings, right? We have seen that very often, that there might not be enough tourism for a hotel. Mm-hmm. But we see that hosts really enjoy working with our platforms.
And you make it simple as well.
We make it very simple,
for both
and
sides.
it's a great channel for them to to make their offer seen to a wider audience.
I can see your love for Airbnb, which is amazing. So kudos, they made a good choice in finding somebody so passionate. Hey, when I look into the Airbnb, for me as a customer in the last years and in the last time, I really see that focus shifting towards experiences. I know it's probably not what you have all day in your agenda, but as you mentioned it already 3 or 4 times, that this experience of being the guest of somebody uniquely, you have a host that you can call at, 10, 15 hours a day when you have an issue. That is, I think, the best thing that there states. And I saw Airbnb changing a lot into this experience world, as well in their commercial and how they attract hosts to be and create good experiences. Is that as well one of the trends that you saw after or with the pandemic?
We definitely see that, hosts are at the very heart and at the very core of our community. And most, or the big majority of our community, of our host community, are private hosts who share their homes.
Is that
I think
a
that's
percentage?
really
It's
where
important to kick it out, huh?
it's important.
Yeah.
It's important. It is because this is the community. We're a very community-driven brand. We very much take care of our community. We are very much in touch with them. We have constant dialogue. And also, and that's where my public policy team comes in, we inform and educate them very regularly on rules, for example, that apply to them and that they need to take into consideration when hosting in a particular city or region.
And I really think, and I saw and hear and know as well, that the work that you do for the hosts is at least as important as on the other side for the customers. And I know as well sometimes you're a quite good balance with the teams between the problems of a customer and a host when there's questions or somebody does not respond. I feel that as well in my day work, because I work with Airbnb as well on both ends of what we do. We do have apartments as well. So we feel this as well, that they really try to be helpful for both sides. So they're not calling, say, do this. They try to find out what is an issue. I really feel that is embedded in that, what you do.
Wonderful feedback.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Indeed, it relates to one of our core values. As all companies, we have company values, right? One of those is be a host.
Love it.
And be a host truly translate into, how we deal with customers, with hosts, with guests, but also internally, how you host a team meeting, for example. You make sure, everybody's comfortable. You listen. We value listening, for example.
Oh, that's good. It's one of the things I always could learn. That's what I learned with Smack, by the way.
That helps, right? The podcast really makes you listen.
The team, there was this. They will give me a statistic every season, say who of us talk the most and who is listening the best. So I'm not the worst, I have to say. So
No. You're doing well. It's a pleasure.
Take this as a compliment. Hey, and the second thing that I remarked as well on Airbnb, sustainability has been a growing topic. I mean, it's an industry trend, I would say. How did you take that on board with Airbnb and probably as well in your daily work, because the travel behaviors change?
Great question. Sustainability is, I would say, a necessity and a commitment for Airbnb, in the sense that, like, from a company perspective, in 2021, we've committed to becoming a net zero company by 2030, and we're on track.
Nice.
This is, I think, one part. And the other part is, I think, what we do to support our hosts and their homes to become more sustainable.
That's interesting. So that means you are not only saying, as a company, which is in a tech world with a, your overhead is quite, I can count it. You don't run the homes, it's not yours, but you help your hosts to reach these goals as well, which is probably stronger than the other part of that, because you take the responsibility for people that they use you as a platform mainly.
We support hosts in a number of countries, currently mainly in France and in Spain, and then in the UK, where we have launched the first pilots 2 years ago to, for example, renovate their homes and really help to make homes more sustainable. For example, we work with partners who help installing solar panels or can help with better insulation, which is a really important topic for many hosts, particularly in times where energy costs are on the rise.
Why did you start in the UK? Is there a specific, is that a part of your topic that is a political thing, or is that the easiest approachable way there?
We're active all over Europe with this. So in Central and Eastern Europe, for example, which would be more like my area.
Oh yeah, true.
We have worked together with Futuris.
Okay.
In the travel industry, a very strong partner that works on sustainability, to work out energy guides that we send to a couple of hundreds of thousands of hosts all over Central and Eastern Europe, to help them and to educate them on how to become more energy efficient. And we hear very positive feedback from hosts that tell us that this is really useful.
I agree. Not only for the business as well. I mean, they live somewhere as well.
Yes, and if you imagine, hosting has become an economic lifeline for many. So when energy prices increase, that can really become a challenge.
I agree.
So this education, but also the programs to support our hosts, really support them with continue hosting and continue to have this extra income that very often helps hosts to really make ends meet.
Did you? I love that, and we did as well a lot of things because the trend is there on sustainability. But sometimes I feel like the request from the clients is not in the same extent as what we're offering. You know, sometimes the trend is there, but I would love to have our audience be a bit more pushy on these topics as well. Not that I'm talking about all these people gluing themselves to anything on streets or artworks, but how are your customers responding to that? And do you see I give an example. You could say, hey, I only want to book in a sustainable, friendly environment, or somebody who has a sustainable, friendly house. Is that something that is a request from your customers, or is that a preparation for the future because it will come?
It's for sure both.
Okay.
It's not either or. What we see is that depends a lot also on the generation.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Interesting.
the younger, the generation, so the Gen Zs, right, are very much aware of the future, and they very much care about sustainability as a topic. But I think across the board, I would say the majority of travelers are interested in sustainable ways of traveling.
I really like that, because I remember there was I think a search or something where he said, would you be interested in a more sustainable way of travel? Yes. Would you be happy to pay XYZ amount more? Not sure. So this difference is exactly the gap that we're seeing at the moment, as well as the industry, because we're on the borderline of what are we doing. We're not doing it, or we're doing it, and we have to do it. But tapping on that, you said that Gen Z is probably more interested. Do you see an overview of your persona? Is it more younger or more older? I don't see my parents traveling on Airbnb, but I travel on Airbnb, so I might be already a bit not older, but probably not Gen Z anymore.
The brand awareness among the, let's say, younger generation is a bit higher, as you can imagine.
Yeah, I'm young.
I would still fall into that category as well, I think.
You definitely.
Thank you. What we see in Germany is that, you know, Germans really love to travel on Airbnb.
Oh.
And that is actually a rather new phenomenon. They always used Airbnb.
It took them a while to do things.
But they're now really, you know, it seems falling in love with Airbnb, which is really great to see. The number of nights booked by German guests on Airbnb in 2023 compared to before the pandemic, so 2019, has increased by 63%. So imagine, this is
my little
love
hotel
story,
heart
right?
obviously now is crying for help, but I do understand the whys and as well the changes of travel behaviors. But it has as well to do with the acceptance not only of what you do, as well how you do it, because you are interesting for all. Even the hotel world can work with you. It's not that you say don't work with us, don't offer with us. So you're your partner for everybody that has a matching product. And we see as well a shift from the classical hospitality hotel industry towards service apartments, and other things. And these are all potential partners and hosts.
Yeah, as I said earlier, the cake is big enough, right?
Agree.
And it's just the beauty of diversity in the travel world. And we see that, you know, hosting, home sharing has become mainstream in the past 10, 12 years.
Yeah.
For Airbnb, or how our founder would put it, he once said, we're here to stay, right?
Yeah, I agree fully. Hey, but here to stay is probably a good thing. If we're here to stay and your job has a certain implication, and I look at the example of New York and the change of regulations, how would you, or how does that match into the picture that I don't want to say destinations or people working against you, but you see that regulation changed the way and the pattern of your work, how it was 10 years ago to today.
Yes, it did.
And then your job, obviously, probably we can tackle later, there is a necessity for somebody who's moderating between regulations, hosts, and the community in what extent. So how would you see that fitting into the picture of the future as well?
Many markets where Airbnb is active are regulated to a certain extent. Regulated means that there is some law or some regulation in place that applies to short-term rentals or hosts. This is normal, right? I would consider this a completely normal development. If you think that Airbnb has grown considerably. The whole home sharing and short-term rental industry has grown over
was
the
there
past
before.
years. It's not only
People forget that this industry was part of
You're
the
right.
cake before.
You're right,
and
but it has grown. I mean, the share of the industry has grown
because you
over the
gave
past
them
10
as well a
years.
face. You gave a possibility into that world. It was much harder. You know, you went to somewhere in a rural region and had to ring a door, or was looking at the Rathaus or the town hall for who is renting and stuff. So you gave. There is an audience that you created as well. And
It has become easier to host
Yeah.
in
Agree.
any case. So there are, interests that need to be balanced out. And this is an important thing in societies. So if you look at cities who worry, for example, about housing affordability or housing availability, some worry about over-tourism.
Yeah.
There are a couple of cities that are, so successful that, it starts...
Amsterdam.
starting,
Barcelona.
it starts, worrying them. And on the other side, tourism brings economic benefits, right, to so many. As I mentioned before, for many hosts, it has become an economic lifeline, but it also brings benefits to restaurants, to shops, to local neighborhoods, to communities. And to really find this balance can only be done through regulation. The important thing for regulation, from my eyes, is that it's transparent, easy to follow, proportionate, and fair. This is my perspective on regulation, and we want to be good partners to find this balance so that we can work together on a sustainable tourism that works for all stakeholders. That means for the people, first and foremost, who live in a certain city or area, but also for the hosts who rent out their place.
Yeah.
And then as well for the guests who come, for a day or two, or maybe for a couple of weeks, to live in a city or
Explore the city in what extent.
explore the neighborhood.
For me, as a probably not so lobbyism or public associate, how does your day look like? You start up in the morning, you go out with the dog, I don't know, then you have a coffee, and then you call the mayor of Vienna.
So first of all, I
He
take my
called
kids
you.
to school in the morning. So my day actually starts quite early.
How old are the kids?
They're 6 and 9. I have 2 daughters.
The 9-year-old could go alone if it's not too far, right?
She could, but honestly, I prefer to accompany them, particularly these days. It's so dark in the
I
morning.
agree.
So
My son is 8, and he would laugh at me if I say I walk with you. But
Really?
he leaves.
no, as long as they still let me.
I love this one. That's good.
Yeah,
And it depends as well how far the school is away. Probably that is the topic as well.
It's only a 10 minutes walk, but still, I enjoy
Where do you live?
taking them there in Pankow.
Yeah, I would take my kids in Pankow to school as well. That's far off the city. I'm kidding.
It's almost out in the
Yeah,
countryside.
it's almost Brandenburg, to be fair.
Yes.
No, okay, you bring your kids
So
to the city.
I bring them
to
to
the
school, and then it depends. That I can freely choose as part of our Live and Work Anywhere program at Airbnb where I want to work. So I can freely choose if I work from home. So then it would be mostly Zoom calls, really. So a lot of my life actually
We
happens
all
on
know
Zoom.
this. Or Teams.
Or I go to the office to see the team.
That's in Berlin.
It's in Berlin,
Yeah.
yes. Or I meet stakeholders, as I mentioned earlier, from cities, or in German it would be the Bundesländer, or I travel to the markets that I look after. So I would travel to Vienna or to Switzerland. I travel to London or to Paris to see my fellow peers, exactly, my counterparts, because we do a lot of, strategy meetings as well.
Which is smart because all the cities might have similar directions in what extent.
Similar challenges,
Yeah.
that's true, but we really aim to be, to develop local approaches that really work for the local markets.
Nice.
So there is no one-size-fits-all approach, but we really try to, really tailor-made solutions and really understand also the needs that a city might have, because Berlin might have a completely different need compared to Paris or London.
I agree. And it does. So mostly I would say home is okay, and that's one of the choices as well. I think I read it in a news or in an interview that you gave. One of the really things that you like as a benefit is that you can choose where to work from, and you're not as blocked in one, I don't want to say blocked, but locked in one place in your job and work.
It changed my life. It really did.
Yeah, I agree.
It really did. Which does not mean that I don't like, working from the office. I do. But I really appreciate the flexibility and the trust that my employer puts in me, that I have, the flexibility to decide where and when I'm most productive.
And I think it's interesting to see how they change it now backwards, how they want to explain why it was productive before and it's not anymore, where it's possible. But it's I have absolutely your opinion. I cannot believe what I sometimes hear from, but I don't have to. It's not our problem.
I mean, there is a point in, making sure that teams connect with each other. It's important that, you find moments where you gather, with your peers and colleagues and team members. Create moments. And we do that, of course.
Hey, wrapping up a bit our interesting conversation. If you look into... I have two things to tackle here. If you look, you already mentioned a couple of travel trends. If you think that's just us two and nobody is allowed to hear, what is the next travel trend that Airbnb has on the market that you're working on?
I can tell you what the current trends are. Yeah. Because we do have that data, so I can at least give you something I can back up, right? So, because we look at search data, we look at what people look for on the platform. I actually looked it up before coming here. So if you look at the data, what people looked for between January and September, that gives you quite an interesting picture. So one is people seem to, want to escape the cold winter in Germany, which is not a surprise. We understand that. So destinations such as, Thailand or the Canary Islands or even Morocco is quite high up, but not everybody, of course, embarks on a long journey, and not everybody has the means. So that's where, the more rural areas come in Germany, and the ski resorts, of course. So that would be the area around Lake Constance, the Alps, even beautiful Harz. Have you seen that on the app you can also search for categories? Yeah. So that is a really interesting feature. I just love it because it gives you more inspiration. You don't have to type in, I want to go to Rome, or I want to go to, I don't know, like say Bali. But you could type in, I am flexible between, I don't know, mid-January and mid-February, and I'm interested in a place by the beach.
I see a lot of good content data. I can see a lot of good content data in the back end of Airbnb evolving.
It's very interesting to see what people look for. And it's particularly interested how this actually disperses travel. Yeah, of course. Because we inspire people, to maybe go for a destination a bit off the beaten track. Yeah. Or look for a place out of the city center. And that's also how this search engines and these categories help building out a strategy against overtourism. I agree, for example.
100%, because it gives you the possibility of putting something higher on a map where you think that is matching to an interest, even though it's not the first. You would not look for it in the same extent. Hey, Alan, last question. You and your family next summer. Where do we meet you?
That's an easy one.
Okay.
Because I have this big love for Italy.
Okay. I would love to tap on that for another half an hour, but we cannot because, as you don't know, she explained me already how a good coffee should look like and how to drink a good coffee. Yeah, I got that.
So, we will most probably 99% end up in a lovely listing on Airbnb, probably down in the south of Italy, maybe Puglia or Calabria. That's where my partner comes from.
Okay.
So, and the kids really enjoy it.
And it's
So
we
that's
know
the
as
plan.
well when, because the summer breaks are clear. Both of your kids go to school. So guys out there, if you want to see Ellen, meet her in person, South Italy in the summer, that's where you're going to meet her on Airbnb.
Absolutely. You can also follow me on Instagram, because that's where I have, put all my lovely pictures of Italy.
It's the first time somebody really makes commercial for his Instagram channel, and we're going to pick that up while you're following her. Don't forget to follow Smack as well on Instagram and all the other things. Ellen, it has been amazing sitting here with you, speaking so much, and I could tell you I could carry on, but from every direction I get signs that the time is at the end, and everybody wants to carry on. Thanks a million for the openness as well, for clarifying what your job is, and great to have you here. Thank you for that.
It was a great pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
That's it for this episode, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to share your thoughts on this episode and everything else that is going on at Smack with us by checking out our website at smack.media or connect with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Instagram. We'll see you next time. That's it from us. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed what you saw. There's more where that came from. Check out our content right here and down here. And if you liked what you saw, please don't forget to subscribe to our social media channels. You'll find all the links below the video. Thanks for watching.